Hey, everybody. I didn't think I was going to get in. I tried to get in a few minutes ago and it said that the live was not available. So, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. It's Sunday morning and we're trying to get back on track because things have been a little wonky here over in my neck of the woods. And we took off last Sunday for Mother's Day here in the United States. And I'm going to give this a minute for the room for people to show up as we've been sort of off schedule. One of the things I want to talk about today is the transits between Chiron at the later degrees of Aries. Good morning, Natalia. I didn't even put a very good description when I started the live because as I started it, it told me that it wasn't going to let me do the live. So I'll fix the title. But Chiron is hovering at the last degrees of Aries. The cardinal signs have just been experiencing Pluto at the last degrees of Capricorn. And I think this is really significant. When I was meditating actually last night, I got this feeling that I would love it if you guys pulled up your natal charts this morning. And I would like you guys to look at your natal charts while we talk about the transits this week, because while we can talk about Venus and Mars, and we'll touch on those, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the first degrees of Aries is on the world axis. Saturn going through Pisces for the last 2 years has been teeing up this transit, this long-term transit where we are being afforded an opportunity to root in and build upon our lives, upon our spiritual awareness. Chiron in the last degrees of Aries. Now, here we have this strong energy of the self, right? How will I express myself? How will I assert myself? How will I be brave? Because wherever Aries is in your chart, it's the environment. So for me, it's actually the 12th house in Placidus. So my 26 degrees Aries rising has been, for unbeknownst to me, for a long time because I wasn't paying attention. When Chiron moved into Aries in my 12th house, I was starting a process of discovering the deeper roots of me, my anger, my frustrations, my warrior tendencies, and how they subconsciously undermined me, whether I'm right or not. And oftentimes I'm right. I'm just not acting out right. Oh, thank you, Courtney. I'm just, I'm getting into the ponytails lately. They're very comfortable. Anyway, I want to bring this up because Chiron rules this sort of primal energy and then this evolved healing energy, right? Half man, half horse. Aries in the 5th house. So that's super important because what you're looking at is Neptune and Saturn coming together in the first degrees of the house of your personal creativity, your leadership, your courage to assert yourself and put yourself on the stage. And then Chiron making squares. Okay, this is the interesting thing. Chiron is now squaring the last degrees of the cardinal signs, which is what Pluto was just doing. And I think this is important because whatever Pluto was bringing up when it was at the last degrees of Capricorn, it's now being asked to being put into our everyday lives and assert ourselves as the peaceful warrior that Chiron is. Chiron, when you look at the myth of Chiron, his first experience in the physical was abandonment. His mother was aghast that he was half, beast and half human. And then he became the one that could traverse the two worlds and was revered as a great healer, a great warrior. So I think this is important. For me, when I look at this, also what I'm seeing is that as Chiron is up on my ascendant, it's also making an opposition to Mars and to my sun. Now, Pluto was just squaring all that stuff. So I'm sitting here going, damn, when will it end? Because honestly, I'm exhausted right now. I am mentally, physically, and emotionally going through some warrior energy. And I'm really struggling with trying to keep down the reactive part of me and remember the Chiron evolved part of me and the Saturn part of me, the part of me that has worked hard to get into this place of awareness and now implement it in everyday life. Oh, I think that's why I want everyone to look at their chart right now, because I feel like, I was working so hard to build the channel, and hi, Lucy. Hi, Natalia, officially. Hi, Courtney, and hi, Small Wildflowers. I was working so hard. I'm like, build, build, build. And I have this distraction. And you guys can't really tell the way the camera is, but my home is just, to me, demoed. And while this is going on, I've got this lady across the way that thinks she's the grande dame of the neighborhood. And I left my pee-pee pads for Lucky hanging over the ledge for a day or two to air out. She's got all these hedges. She has to go to the corner of her patio to even see my patio. And she starts taking pictures of me and she starts knocking on my door. I didn't answer because I knew she was going to bitch about it. And I didn't want to get in a fight because she's an intolerant woman. So it's everywhere. And so the point I'm trying to make is that there's a part of me that is tired because emotionally I am breaking through something that is ingrained in my soul, because my South Node is in the 12th house of Aries. So my North Node is in Libra. And that means I'm here to figure out how to be peaceful and how to go through things in a way that are just and fair. I know it's none of her fucking business. I know this is where I go crazy, because who the hell is she with her hedges that are blocking everybody? Exactly, Lucy, the diplomat. So I'm literally struggling with this. Here I am watching my client base, like not my client base. I mean, everybody still loves me. Thank you, Courtney. It has been a very difficult year so far. I agree, because it's really this polarization between the old Saturn and the old historic structures that are limiting and repressive and, authoritative in a way that doesn't allow us to stretch. And then there's Neptune saying, what are you going to do? Are you going to damn well drink yourself to death and go that direction? Or will you find your connection to spirit and then stay there? I was praying this morning because I know on a very strong level that the way I'm being right now I know I'm standing in the wind. Okay. It's just the damn process. Oh, and this is the other thing. I have Saturn transit squaring my natal Saturn. And I'm just like, holy crap. So everything's going to take forever. And while I know all these transits are happening, everything in Aries wants to go boom, boom, boom. So my cardinal signs, or people who have planetary activity in the cardinals, right? Look to those right now, because you guys are being I'm not saying the other signs aren't getting it, but between the Chiron dynamic for the late degree Aries, look what's happening in your houses, late degree Aries. And then look what's happening in the early degrees of Aries, because you could even have things in Pisces that are at, let's say you have planets at 25 degrees of Pisces, okay, even 23 degrees. You could still be feeling this planetary conjunction between Saturn and Neptune, and then all of the mutable signs will be feeling it as well, in square, in opposition. So there's this real, to use the word historic feels almost redundant, but it's so incredibly true, because when Neptune moved into Aries in 1862, and obviously there was a period of time when maybe Saturn, because Saturn, well, I don't know, I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure Saturn visited Aries back then, because again, we were breaking down old structures and we were implementing the freedoms of the individual. So yeah, wherever the sun is, Venus and Mercury are always within 2 houses or 2 signs. So if you ever meet someone and they go, "Oh, I'm a Sagittarius," then you know that the range where those 2 planets will be, and you can almost see it act out in the way they are. Good morning to everybody. So what I'm trying to say is that overall, I have all these. I started off this year with so many big plans, and doing this Wednesday live, and I find myself instead, calling contractors and trying to figure out how I'm going to get the $3,000 to fix the damn mistake that the landlord won't fix. And I don't like calling him a landlord. I hate giving him the word lord, the property manager. And I know that what I've implemented in governmental, just judicial energies is absolutely going to work. The weight is killing me, Saturn square Saturn. So you guys, be gentle with yourselves. To push right now could create a lot of frustration, and that would also be an Aryan energy. Let me look at that. We've got Mercury squaring Mars for this part of this week. We have Venus in trine to Mars. We have Jupiter squaring the nodes, and we have Uranus conjunct the sun. Oh my God, it really is amazing because, Lucy Rose, also the idea of Uranus in Taurus, and even at these last degrees, is very much to me not only breaking up personal history and making us aware of it, but also being aware of the imbalance within our rooted structures where we're building. We don't have farmland, like most of us do not cultivate farms and ranches the way we did when we were providing for ourselves. And so I think the parasite thing is very much about sort of the underbelly of what are the parasites within all of us. And I'm not sure who exactly rules parasites, but part of me thinks that's a Pluto thing, because parasites can hide in the dark places in your body, often in the colon and the intestines. So it's really, hi, MK, good to see you here this morning. So be mindful. This is what I want to tell you. When you look at your charts and you look at where these cardinal signs are, and you look at the squares that are happening naturally and how that affects your personal chart. Because when I look at the Chiron hitting my ascendant, and then also it's hitting my Mars and my Sun, and then obviously squaring my 10th house, it's like, what will I choose to be? Will I choose to be, the more instinctual animal side of myself that just wants to, the instant gratification that usually leads to remorse? Or do I want to be the methodical, smart Matt Dillon, pardon my reference, being an old woman here, and be the sheriff in town that knows how to follow the rules and have the rules work for me? It's just the rules are going to take forever. So even the contractor that I had come and I know is going to do the work, even that is, the communication is very slow right now. So, so it's rough. It's a rough time, and it's rough because we're changing I don't want to say a paradigm because it sounds so cosmic. We're changing an awareness level. We're really changing. We're going from a victim mentality, which is Saturn and Neptune's conjunction in its lowest vibration. Total victim, escapism. Let me just get high. Let me take my Xanax. Let me smoke my weed. Let me drink my drink. Let me eat my food. Let me shop my face off. There's so many addictions that we all have. And the whole thing is, taking us into an age of co-creation, what Pluto's offering us in Aquarius. And it's just so damn hard because, it feels like those that are unconscious are even more in our face for those that are conscious. It's almost like we have a really sensitive way of hearing things. So when we walk in a room of imbalance, it's so much louder for us than other people. So be mindful of that. Be gentle with yourselves. You know, if you have to coast a little bit right now, maybe that's not so bad, you know, because I've been trying so hard to feel motivated and I don't. I feel like I'm just freaking pissed off. And when that lady came to my door, oh my God, you guys, can I show you her face? I'm so evil. I'm not evil, but I couldn't believe it on my Ring camera. I couldn't help myself. I got to show you this space. This is the lady I have to live next door to. Now tell me, is that not a dragon lady or what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. God help me. This is how she's standing at my door. Like I'm going to open the door. Oh my God. And I knew. So anyway, and then, okay, so then it's the other thing. I'm sorry for those in playback that have to listen to me talk. Eventually you can get to your reading. But the other thing that happened was, you know, I looked up, I bought one of those truth finder things, you know, and I don't know, they're really kind of cuckoo because somehow you get into a chain of subscriptions you didn't know. Was that hilarious or what? She's so I went and I looked up this woman because I got charged again. I thought I was, you know, I had discontinued all of them. And then I found out last night that I got charged for one more and I canceled the subscription. But before I did, I looked her up on it and she's a Scorpio. She's a Scorpio. Now, then I'm nothing against Scorpio. I love Scorpio, but my Mercury is in Scorpio. My Neptune is in Scorpio. I went and looked up the year she was born. So you can't know a lot, but you can know where the outer planets are, right? And she has Saturn in Scorpio. Jupiter's in Scorpio. I mean, she's like a stellium in Scorpio, and it made so much sense to me, even though I don't know exactly what the rising sign was. So these are the thoughts, right? Like I'm so I know, just like, oh my God. I'm totally stressed out. I mean, I'm never ever anxious, and I wake up and I've got this like feeling like I'm in trouble. Like I'm in trouble, and I hate that feeling. So this is why I bring all this up today, because you know we can talk about, oh, Mars is squaring Mercury and da da da. But you know what? I think we got to start a I'm not got to, but we get to think about how this actually, like, I don't know. I wanted to make it more personal for the tribe that actually shows up. So if you pull up your charts, I want you to look and try to look at it in places. Dang, I should have done that. I got distracted there. So, all right, let me look real quick here. So Uranus is conjunct the sun. That's only really going to happen for a day. I think Jupiter squaring the nodes is super important because this is where I'm going, okay? The reason I wanted you to pull up, hi, just call me, see, I want you to pull up your charts is because I want you to see where the Aries energy is. I think that's really important because the Saturn, Neptune in the beginning on the world axis conjunction is going to float around there. Dang, dang, dang. Oh, good. Well, I turned off the sound now. And then the Chiron at the last degrees of Aries, I think is really significant because, again, this represents a chronic wound that is transformed through understanding, through a certain awareness. Because if Chiron, you know, on a soul level, thought about what he offered Saturn and Palmyra in being their offspring, it really was an acceptance of their own co-creation, you know? And, you know, what does determine value and beauty, you know? So I think that's what we're all kind of going through. And there's so much planetary activity that outer planetary, like the landscape changing so much with Jupiter about to enter Cancer and Uranus entering Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius. And then this conjunction between Saturn and Neptune for the next, like, I don't know, 6-9 months as they go retrograde and forward, we're really being, the planets are saying, what are you thinking? And how can you relax your habitual thoughts? Because I'm feeling the imprint so much where I literally like start to try to think of something that's more comforting and more expansive, and then boom, my mind goes back to what I'm pissed about or what's injustice has taken place. That's really the way I view the injustice. So I just don't think we can wrestle it down. I think if we try to wrestle it down, we're going to exhaust ourselves. So who was in the front at the top that told me they were in their fifth house? It was fifth house. So Sagittarius. Okay. So who was that? That was Natalia. So this is all about her fifth house, fun. Will she allow herself to have fun the way she likes to have fun? Will she think about how she wants to conceive or have a child or a family? This will be about romance. This will be about the creation of the self and moving that onto whatever stage is most important to you, Aries 11th house, then very much this would be about the expansion of your dreams, about sort of looking at, the idea of the 11th house is an upachaya house that matures over time. And isn't it time now? Most of our tribe that I know of is, not in the midst of their early youth. And that way I think that, I say to myself, because when I was contemplating with the contractor, some of the extra things that we could do that would be nice for me, I thought about my age. I thought about the idea of, what is a realistic idea of me, getting and moving anytime soon. And a lot of this seems very worth it to me. And yet it may not on the outside. So this is very much about, what do you want? How will you be aware of the old pattern that's getting stoked right now? Okay. It may be something you haven't thought about, worried about, or felt in years. And now it's popping back up because it's an opportunity to walk through it with more awareness and intention. And that's why I think Mercury squaring Mars is so difficult, because Mars is in Leo. I believe Mercury is in Taurus. And as a result of that, there's that old history going up again. Where did I put it? Hold on, let me check. You have Chiron in Leo. Well, Natalia, then there's part of that is kind of interesting, because then there's a square from Aries. And I don't know what degree your Chiron is, but you've sort of been feeling that. Oh, there's going to be a lot of litigation on some level. There's a comeuppance for the people that aren't creating the win-win. The people that are polluting and poisoning the earth are absolutely something's starting. All right, let me quickly pull up the chart of the day, because I'm pretty sure that Mercury is Mercury's in Taurus. Yes, Mercury is in Taurus right now, and the sun is conjunct Uranus, making that almost an exact square to Mars. Now, this is where the mind and the action, will be aligned. Remember the co-creation. And are you brave? Like, this is what I have to ask myself. What does my impatience represent? When I want to know what the answer is, does that represent a true faith and a relaxing in my co-creation, or am I still in my human mind of not really believing that I get what I intend? So I think it's important. Chiron at 23 degrees Leo. Dude, you are feeling it. You're feeling the, right now you'd be feeling that. But Chiron at 23 degrees of Leo is actually complementary to where Chiron is in Aries, because they're both fire signs. They trine each other. So this is an opportunity, while it's still a little bit challenging, because that's a Chiron trine Chiron. That's not a square. The squares are going to be to the cardinal signs. Leo's a fixed sign. So that could be where you, through your awareness, Natalia, and through your willingness to be brave and put yourself out there in whatever way that is, going out there doesn't necessarily mean to other people. And I know that the fifth house is an audience house, but it's like the permissions you give yourself, you take into the audience. So when the audience witnesses somebody commit to something, okay, they commit to the part, they commit to the role, they go over the top, the audience goes with them. When the person wobbles, then the audience wobbles. So this might be an opportunity to stretch yourself a bit, because you literally are. I mean, I think Chiron's at 25 degrees of Aries right now. So you've been feeling this for a bit. Okay. Oh my God, all these bugs. Lucky got bugs this week for the first time. I don't think I saw fleas on him when I gave him a bath yesterday. I think I got them all. Hey, little grasshopper, welcome. Yeah, honestly. And you know what? Have you saged, Lucy? Have you tried just saging? I know it seems like, not really a bug killer thing, but you can't depend on the medical community to treat anything in any way except for the way they want it to be. This is what the polarization is. This is the Saturn and the old ways gripping. And then the new ways are still trying to be birthed. It's not so hard. It really is hard. I got to tell you, it's hard because the more you know, the harder it is on you, because you task yourself to be more co-creative. All right. This is the other thing this week. Jupiter is going to hit the nodes. Jupiter in Gemini in the last degrees is going to exasperate the wanting of a more spiritual, ideal, dream-like existence in Pisces, and then it's gonna trigger that south node of, oh, is that even possible? I've got this bill to pay or that thing to do. Okay. Did you sage, Lucy? Because I don't know why I feel like if you sage, it's like, it's part of, I don't know if the bugs don't like the sage smell. Yeah. You don't put it right in their face, of course, but I sage all the time. Lucky's fine. I mean, I don't leave the doors and windows shut. I don't know why people would do that when they sage, because you're trying to remove the imbalanced energy. So I always open all the doors and windows so that the sage goes and takes it out. So I believe that's not a problem. Okay. All right. What is today? May 17th, May 18th, something like that. Happy birthday, Taurus. How are you enjoying your Taurus Uranus conjunction? Your sun, or your rising, actually, since we go by rising. I feel like I've been saging twice a day. Happy birthday, MK. I hope it's a wonderful day for you. All right, let's start with our Tauruses. We're going to go rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. See what Spirit has to say this week. The Sun and Uranus conjunction that you birthday people will be experiencing, you Taurians, could very well be a sort of sudden epiphany or an awakening about your ego and your ego expression. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that almost in, I've got this new acronym, exciting God opportunities. And it might be where you have this sort of solar return. Sometimes on our birthdays, depending upon, what birthday it is, we'll be like, we're going to we wake up with a new resolve to claim what we want. So let's see where we're going with our Tauruses this week. Our first, the Strength card. We have the Magician. We have the Four of Cups and the Five of Wands. Okay. So here is clearly a card of gentility, of being careful and peaceful, and potentially with the beast within. And this is very Leo energy. So there's also that creativity. There's this feeling of fifth house. But again, there could be this sense of slowness. It's so weird how I felt like things moved more with Mercury and Venus retrograde in Pisces than they do now, because the magician is here. And there's where we are commanding our thoughts. That's where we're co-creating our world. And we see all these butterflies have quite an interesting color to them. There's a purpley dark hue before they come into their power, as we see with the yellow at the top of some of them. Now in the angel's advice, we have this Four of Cups, where we're only looking at what's going on. We can't see there's a gift being had. One of the things about this disruption I've experienced is that my case was good to start with, but it's great now, because something's going on with my Tauruses, and this would be about, there's not competition. The Five of Wands can very much feel like a card of competition or a card of opposition. Not really opposition, but when we are in competition, we play a defensive role and we play an offensive role, right? And I think that this could very well be about identifying the role you want to play and being gentle with yourself as you do. I want to offer this. 59 was, I remember 59. It was very interesting. I was just starting off on YouTube, and I think I'd only been, on it for maybe a year when I turned 60. And I had a lot of issues about that. But I want to offer, and also, what else, Cinderella? You've got your Saturn return, and that can be depressing. So if you're 59, between 59 and 58, you're having your Saturn return somewhere in Pisces or in the beginning degrees of Aries. I bet it's in Pisces. And as a result of that, you would be very acutely and maybe feeling chronically, because the last 2 years, I can't tell you how many people say the last 2 years, this happened. Because when Saturn moved into Pisces, it started to really put a damper and a limitation on delusions and illusions and things that were out of balance. So allow the cry, it's a great release. And then allow yourself the privilege of, using that kind of dark spot to identify more color in your life. Like if am I sad because I'm growing older? Am I sad because I haven't achieved the things that I want? As I've aged, a lot of things have made me more brave about asking for the things I want. Now I'm going through a huge disruption in my home, and yet there's a part of me, I'm going to go take a loan. I can't make these repairs just having money in my bank, but I'm going to do it because I'm 65 years old. I'll be 66 in October, and I've lived in this place for 21 years, 22 in October. No. Yeah. And I'm going to find the money, and I'm going to do it. And even though things feel very restricting, and I feel a sense of, bearing a burden alone because I have nothing, I also know that I'm more than capable, and it's because I'm not bearing it alone. I bear it with spirit. And as I walk through this, spirit will bring in situations that will reward my tenacity to claim my happiness and my space. So we'll pray for you to feel a sense of peace and a sense of thriving and expansion at this age. Okay, let's go on to our Geminis, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Here we go. All right, Gemini, let's see what's happening. We have the Devil inverted. We have the Seven of Wands inverted. We have the Ace of Wands inverted and the Ace of Pentacles. Okay, here's our Saturn energy right here. Okay. Now we know that Saturn, Gemini squares Pisces. There's natural tension between those houses. And here, to me, that Devil card is really kind of saying that, I always look at it when it's upside down and it looks like lived. L-I-V, devil, Lived. And now we see the Seven of Wands. And I wonder if it isn't offering Gemini an opportunity to see where there's the bridge between the mind and between the heart and what we want. Because the Ace of Wands wants a new beginning based on passion, but it's turned upside down. And we have all of these cards are upside down. So now we have this bringing it into the material. The timing may be off. There may be potentially something. I think there is as Jupiter has gone through its detriment in Gemini, and this is technically your first house. If we look at it in Placidus, it could be walking through some of your 12th house. So it would be bringing up old beliefs of the way you think, the way you speak, the way you interact all day long. And is that working for you, or is it inadvertently undermining you? Because the 12th house is a subconscious house where we do things that we don't even recognize are getting in our way. Because I think that this might be that you're not terribly chained to an old story, but where are you chained to a Capricornian, Saturnian energy? While this is challenging, it's more challenging like this. This is also more challenging in its upright position, but there's still time, or there's still an opportunity to create a bridge with your passions. And I don't care if your passion is design home app. Okay, can I tell you guys, I'm an insane person. Well, you already knew that, but I do this design home. I'm winning a challenge on the design home app. It's called Rising Star. And I'm only winning it because in order for my mind to be calm, I need to do something creative. And I'm literally like I do every challenge. And I'm a very good designer, by the way. And I love I can see my moon in Taurus and my sun and Mars in my north node in Venus. And this creativity is a form of meditation. Because I don't want you all to think that you're like, I need to sit like this in order to calm down, because that's so stressful. Okay, I need to connect with spirit to calm down. Sometimes the best way to connect with spirit is to just sort of, it's like it's an indulgence of what the heart wants to do, not an indulgence of the depression. Okay, North Node in Capricorn. Well, that's about building structures and being a leader and trusting the long, term dynamic. I'm insane. Okay, I got to tell you. Hold on, let me look at this real quick. I got an iPad. That's how nuts I am. I bought an iPad so I could see the designs better. Isn't that ridiculous? And I thought to myself, I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm not going to feel bad about it. I've done 399 designs since April 1st, and I have 95 stars. I'm very excited. So I just wanted to tell you that. All right, let's go on to our Cancers. So, we've got to find things that are actually, because this is where I felt guilty at first for doing this. I'm like, I shouldn't be spending so much money on this app. I shouldn't buy $5 worth of diamonds every 5 minutes. But then I thought to myself, if I wasn't doing this, I would be walking around in a fit of annoyance and injustice, and this isn't fair, and they're like the bad guys, and I can't do that. So this might, because that's the other thing about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. Maybe part of being able to get rid of the depression and the limitation is through something creative. I'm just saying, hey, Katerina, welcome. Scorpio North Node, that's really stretching to understand the psychology of things. Oh, I've got my nodes on my sister's ascendant as well. It's so interesting. Pokemon, this is what I want to say. If that actually brings you joy and it calms your mind and brings the anxiety down, I don't think there's anything wrong with that right now. It's kind of like, I feel like pushing too hard right now would actually be completely like, it would knock us out, Meaning, like, I just see this huge hill, and the more I try to go up the hill, the more exhausted I get, the more I feel like I'm going to tumble back down. Like the hill's too steep. I got to take my time and I got to sit for a minute and rest. I'll tell you, I don't know about an income, but I totally could design anybody's home. I'm telling you, I have complete confidence in myself. I think I'm fabulous, which is also an interesting thing because I'm investing because of this disruption, because of these crooks and thieves. I'm going to take a loan out more than likely. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get the nice paint. I'm going to get the good floors. I'm going to replace the hood on the stove. I'm going to do the baseboards. And when it's all said and done, I'll take you for a tour. It may be 4 months, but who knows? And I'm going to do it because if not now, when? And do I have to be the owner of this property after I've lived here for 21 years to indulge myself in this privilege? I'm 65 years old. If not now, when? And Spirit is going to give me resources and then send them the bill. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Well, you can always get a reading if you want. You can contact me and get a personal reading, and we can look at things and see. Because if Uranus, I happened to be working with a client a few weeks ago, and they have Uranus hovering over their Chiron and Venus, and it's really difficult. I'm really, this is about self-care right now. And because part of that self-care, when you do it, is trusting that the universe has your back. And that when you're not staring at your problem and micromanaging it, or the people around you who you're responsible for their problem, because with Jupiter and Gemini, you could very well believe that if you don't take care of your kids, or you don't take care of your community, or you don't do your everyday activities the way you're supposed to, the world's going to come to an end. And it might. Thank you, Natalia. I've been really trying hard to believe in myself because I'm painted as a bad person in this whole scenario. I'm painted as sort of this reckless hothead, with no money. That's the other thing. I'm totally judged for my financial being. I thank you, Secret Soul Secret Service. I like that. That handle. I really do enjoy my home. And when through this disruption, I've been waking up in the middle of the night, like all people do. Oh, wow. Hi, Teri. So nice to meet you. The ocean has been very loud lately. The ocean has been crashing down, and I feel like it's talking to me because it's saying, you know what? Don't let anybody run you out of your home. This is your home, and you can make it your home, and you created this, and you called it forth within the universe. And because other people who are more Saturnian, more maybe out of balance because they only judge things by the material, okay, they are coming up against on me because I get to reframe who I am. I can't even help myself. I know I'm gonna manifest the money. And even if I went and looked at like old loans I took, and I looked at what it took me to pay them off, and I have super good credit. And I'm telling you, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna walk around on the most beautiful floors. I'm gonna buy area rugs. It's gonna be so gorgeous. And these people are never gonna get me out. And frankly, the way they behaved, they are really cruising for a bruising and a class action lawsuit. So in California, it's a very heightened environment for abusive people and power. So I could totally use the prayers. If anything, I could really use prayers. All right. I'm sorry, you guys. You're going to have to put up with me right now, or you can, always do the other. Just skip to the timestamp and move on. All right. We're going on to our Cancers, rising moon, sun, and stellium. Now, this is one of our cardinal signs, right? So if you're a late degree Cancer, you're feeling a square to Chiron. If you're an early degree Cancer, you're feeling a square to Saturn and to Neptune. Oh, trust me, not now. No, they can't. What excuse would they use after 21.5 years of suddenly changing my lease? And the amount of abuse they have Actually, I've never spoken to them. It's all documented in texts and pictures. I have them by the balls. Sorry to say it out loud, but I do. I just have to wait for the other half. Reiki money and fire? Well, I don't understand what that means. Were you calling forth through Reiki money and passion? All right, we're going on to Cancer. Oh, we have the Chariot, which is the Cancer card. Then we have the Two of Pentacles inverted. We have the Knight of Cups inverted. And then we have the Four of Cups. All right, my Cancers, God bless you so much. You too are going through a strain and a struggle. See the two horses? You're fighting two parts of yourself right now. Very easily, there could be the part, I know everything's going to be all right, but there's no money in the bank. I know I'll find the love of my life, but I haven't met anybody. Absolutely, okay? Because there is clearly a lack of flexibility and movement. That's what the two, and flow is really what this means. Now, I want to offer this because the Knight of Cups is inverted. And all the knights on some level, while they can be petulant teenagers, they also have a strong hero energy, okay? And here, I think this is about making a move emotionally. And the move would be to be more flexible, to see things as moving even when you don't know they're moving. One of my frustrations is, what I identified was that as much as I can smell the win, I know I'm going to win, I know I have everything, I still am so impatient about it that I recognize that's a lack of faith. It's a lack of the pacing, because in my excitement or in my fervor to have justice, the people have inadvertently created so much more so much more evidence. They're dumbasses, okay? Because God is trying to give you, Cancer, a gift, and you can't see it because you're too busy struggling with what I think is earthy. You might be looking at things. This is the little, God bless my Cancers, okay? Every sign has its challenges, and Cancer tends to nurture and give to others what they want to receive. And sometimes the others don't really get that. And so they just take all your nurturing, yay, yay, and then it doesn't come back to you. This might be what you're struggling with a little. Something is off. Something is pulling you in two directions, and Spirit's asking you to be a little more flexible during this period of time, to recognize your own emotional moves, and to know that Spirit is bringing you something that you can't see right now or even feel potentially. All right, here we go. And that's probably something to do with the squares again. Right now, I just want to be so gentle with myself. I'm into cleaning weird things. Okay, so I really want to apologize and not apologize at the same time, because I can't help being me right now. The other day, I woke up so anxious. I didn't have one appointment. I didn't have anything to do. I probably could have shot videos, right? But my head is not in the right space. I'm all, brrr. And I sat, you know what a wall heater looks like? I have a wall heater, and it has all these little squares. There's probably 300 little squares, maybe more. And I sat there with a Q-tip cleaning the dirt out of every single one of them. It took me 2 hours, but it was all I could do in that moment. There was something about the motion of my hand and holding the vacuum cleaner at the same time, trying to suck the dirt out. It was like a metaphor for the nooks and the crannies. I'm telling you this because there may be weird things that you feel like, I should be doing this, but I can't get myself to do that. Let yourself, and especially if your mind is going off, find a way to use your hand in some way. If you can color, if you can knit, if you can, clean something, you'll find that the hand motion will help you quiet this a little bit. I was really happy after I did it, I got to tell you. I'm so crazy sometimes. I like neatness. And when my life is in chaos, my Venus in Virgo goes off. Yeah, if I'm ticked off, yeah, I'm in a constant state of ticked off. I've not been this fired up in ages. Yeah, and put music on. I do too. Watercolors on Sirius XM. I like to listen to the light jazz. Well, the interesting thing right now is that this is the whole thing. This is all about money and greed and my tenure here. So I really feel like I'm not worried about money. I mean, yeah, money might be a little skish right now. I'm more focused on, I don't want to repeat the same karmic dynamic. I don't want to make the same choices. I've come so to the, like, I've come so far down the road, and I've been so pretty much aligned, and it feels almost like this transit is really messing with me, and it's pushing on me because it's pushing on my Mars, it's pushing on my sun, and I just kind of have to hold still. That's the thing. Here's a Mars ruled woman, okay, who has to hold still right now. So that's why the motion of doing something when I can't do something is so important, because Spirit will signal me when it's my time to come into the arena for battle. And that's my challenge, because I want to just battle, battle, battle. So where you may not feel that way, but wherever your Aries energy is, wherever your cardinal energy is, because of Chiron and this, I think this is really powerful because it's setting a tone for all the other things. All the reasons why Mars squaring Mercury, why you'll be pissed, will be in those two things. So I think we should do a collective intention setting for all of us renters, that we create balance within our homes, and that the exchange of energy between renter and rentee is one of loving higher vibrations. That's where I'm going with this. I'm telling you, Teri, I'm right there with you. I'm right behind you, because that's exactly the next step. I'm not backing down. It's not about like giving up and rolling over. It's about being strategic. And let's get it now. I want everything now. That's my Mars. And that's my lesson. That's my self-undoing. That's my South Node in the 12th house. And it's at 3 degrees. So there's a Gemini energy attached to it. And in my awareness of that right now, I feel like, because it's literally Saturn and Neptune are sitting on my South Node, and they're triggering my North Node. And Chiron is opposing my Mars and my Sun. I'm on a huge stretch. I am Luke Skywalker, and I'm in that ship, and I have to close my eyes. I have to wear those goggles, and I have to learn how to battle from the inside out. And that's almost what all of you have to do right now, or get to do. I hate to say have to, but that's the stretch that we're on. Hi, Outer Spice. Welcome to the room. So think of yourselves that way. Hi, Joanne. Oh yeah, I'm not even saying God give us strength. I'm demanding strength. I literally was like saying to God this morning, I want peace of mind. I worked too hard to get this far to suddenly backtrack. A caravan, that sounds kind of fun. That's small. I know, this is exactly that, the raising of the rent during these times when everything else is going up, up, up. It's so irritating. They haven't done that yet, but I just dare them to, because I'm literally live feeding the investigator everything. So I'm in a good place. I just have to take one battle at a time, one monster at a time. I want to go like this and lob them all off at the same time, but I can't. All right. We're not getting very far today, are we? I'm just meandering through, telling you all what's been going on. Okay. And you know what else I'm going to do? I bought some paint samples, and I'm going to put the paint samples on the wall, which will then make me absolutely, if I paint the wall, even when it's looking as crappy as it looks, and I start putting sample paint on it, I will have to move forward because that'll drive me crazy if I don't. All right. Where are we? Are we on Cancer? Oh, we're on Leo. Is that where we're going? I'm sorry, sweet peas. I'm a something today. All right, we've got the Seven of Wands inverted. We've got the Three of Swords inverted. We've got the Page of Swords inverted and the Three of Wands. All right, not easy to be an early born Leo right now. We've got, an opposition to Pluto and it's retrograde, revisiting the old toxic energies that oppose your sense of self, at least for those Leo risings. If you have any planets in early Leo, this is affecting you as well. Plus, there's the fixed signs, or all early degree fixed signs are feeling it as well. So we have this bridge that Leo gets to make. Okay, the Seven of Wands is often a card where you're defending yourself, but in this particular deck, we see this woman has everything she needs. The backpack, we see the orange jacket. She's got passion, but she's got to bridge something. She's got to bridge an emotional issue in some way because this is inverted. If indeed you have experienced heartache, again, the Three of Swords is inverted. So this would be a memory of heartache rather than an active heartache. And the Page of Swords is inverted. This would be where your mind is not necessarily allowing you the privilege of new ideas. Because for my Leos, you could inadvertently be stuck in the past. You could be looking at everything where Pluto has been bringing up that deep psychological imprint that has power and control over you that you're in many ways not aware of because but this is real. This is a crystal. This is affecting me. But Spirit is saying, this is a powerful card, the Three of Wands, because this gentleman is looking to the future. He's looking at the ocean, his emotional future. And there's two cups here. So one party is yet to arrive. So this is really, and I want to say this for my Leos because you rule romance. If for some reason this is a romantic situation that you're still trying to bridge your future with, for you to base your future on your past would be on some level a disservice to your happiness. And wherever Saturn, and because again, the fire signs trine each other. So Saturn and Neptune, while it's still a difficult transit, it is offering opportunity to let the past be viewed through a spiritual dynamic, a spiritual perspective, a soul. I walked through that dark spot because this now makes the color pop. So, and it's not easy for your fixed signs. I understand that. I mean, literally, the more I do astrology, the more I work with people, the more I see the patterns of the fixed moons. Okay, so that's not easy, but keep your eye on the future. Keep your eye on what it is that you want to experience, and keep your conversation with Spirit that way as well. Good morning, Paul from PA. Good to see you. Welcome to the room. Nice to have that energy in the room. All right, we've been gone for a week or so. It feels like we've been gone a lot longer, but we're going to get it together here. All right, let's go on to our Virgos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Not easy too. Here we go. Because now we're seeing that, the late degree Pisces energy, okay, that Saturn being there in the late degrees and the early degree of Neptune, that's still affecting late degree mutables. Okay, so, and you've got the South Node going through your first house for Virgo rising. Now, if you're a Virgo rising and you're, mid to late degree, depending upon where, the South Node is going, you're going to revisit something that has to do with yourself, obviously, but also an unconscious pattern that you have. And that could very well be one where the practicality and the rationality and all of that, but look, this is a phone. This is a phone. So there's a part of you that is going to be tasked with the difficult journey of trusting that which you cannot see, that which is not earthy. This is not the dark web. We're not on the dark web. We're the light web. I don't know what he's looking at on the internet. I don't even know what the dark web is. I'm not on that side of the fence. I don't know. I know is that the porn side? Is that the side where, where you go on the sites, the married sites, and I don't know. I'm not on that side. So, Paul, I think you're going to have to trust your own true north on that one and think about when you were his age, what you could handle and what you couldn't. All right, here we go. This is for our Virgos, rising moon. I don't know what the dark web is. Yeah. If you don't know what it is, then she probably, yeah. Well, I'm going to say, well, I don't know that you can block. I don't know anything about it. So, but maybe he knows how to get there. You just need to monitor him or keep him busy. Take him out into the beautiful, countryside of PA. Go get some yummy butter from the Amish. All right, here we go. On to our Virgos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. All right, we have the Four of Wands inverted. We have the Ten of Pentacles inverted. We have the Three of Wands inverted and the Nine of Cups straight up. All right. You may not feel it right now, my Virgos, because this is a card of celebration, and this would actually be a lack of celebration. And that I would not be surprised. It is not easy, especially for the earth signs, to experience this sense of erosion. And that's what the South Node can do. The South Node is going to erode anywhere that is actually toxic, anywhere that there's an out of balance dynamic. And this very much could be an out of balance dynamic when it comes to traditions, monies. The Ten of Pentacles is, big finance, but it rules structures and history and like old money. So to me, when I look at this, it's ideas potentially and beliefs you have about prosperity and security and having enough. Because the angel's advice is the Three of Wands, and here we're not looking to the future. Again, we're in a very practical sort of kind of earthy, feels a little stuckish, a little sluggish, because as you can recognize that you're not celebrating what it is you want, you're focused in on what you're lacking, then you can start to call in wish fulfillment. The Nine of Cups is fabulous. So this South Node, I just had it going up through my, Libra energy. It's in my work right now. It's actually in my fifth house. And I'm not having any fun. I'm not having any fun, and I'm not working that much because I'm not having any fun with the whole thing. So I would say for my Virgos that this is an opportunity to look at where you spend time in enjoyment, in being sort of, I don't want to go totally frivolous, but where you're worrying too much, where you're too concerned with material security, to the point where you're projecting so far out into the future that it's not relevant to what's happening today. That's what I want to say, because your wish will be fulfilled when you actually focus on that. All right. What would be interesting, Paul, is to look at your nephew's sex houses in his chart. What are his thoughts and beliefs about the physical body and sex, because they're in the chart. Maybe your sister's had trouble with him because he's 11. Maybe puberty's getting him all worked up. I don't know. I think it depends. We used to have this kid in our group in high school, and he had a stack of Playboys in his closet, and nobody wanted to get near them because all we thought they're just sticky. You just need to remember what you were like when you were 11. You'll be fine. All right, here we go. On to our Libras, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. We're going to get through this broadcast, I swear. Okay. The Death card straight up, the Nine of Wands straight up, the Three of Wands coming out a lot, and the Ten of Pentacles straight up. Oh, I like this one. All right, here's the transformational Death card. Now, this is interesting for me because in this deck, you see this guy is encased in a group of horses, right? It's like the horses are running around him. The horses, for me, are representing the belief system. That they're feeling Jupiterian to me. Then we see this, what almost feels like an alien ship, but it looks more like cloud cover. Spirit's trying to give you a message, but the beliefs sometimes are fogging things up. And here, this is there's no need to guard yourself anymore. You have been through a situation and you have the ability, you can relax a little bit. Look to the future. No need to look to the past. No need to look to, even though there's 2 cups and one doesn't have a person sitting at it, things are starting to come into fruition because we see this very earthy 10 of Pentacles in the upright position, offering great material abundance. And I mean that in a way that it doesn't mean that, everybody's going to have a lot of money, but at the same time, you could find yourself being more, feeling a sense of that flow, or feeling a sense of security, or feeling a sense of, okay, things are on track. Again, the cardinal energies are being hit by the Aries dynamic of Chiron in the later degrees of Aries, and then Saturn and Neptune in those beginning degrees. So wherever in your chart are your cardinal houses, look at that, look at the planets, and you'll start to see where the transformation is truly being offered. So for me, again, I'll repeat, my Mars that rules me is in opposition to my ascendant, and now in opposition to transit Chiron. So the push-pull is, will I continue to be a brave warrior, or will I react and shoot myself in the foot? I know I'm going to win. It's not easy. I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot. I'm going to keep my head about me. All right, on to our Scorpios, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. There's nothing more exciting than a self-actualized Scorpio. And there's nothing more infuriating than an unconscious Scorpio. I'll say it just like that. Because an unconscious Scorpio is truly, really a difficult human. They can be very, very bullish, very abrasive, very domineering, and entitled. So that's why. And I think Scorpio is it's one of the most powerful signs of the zodiac, if not the most powerful. It's ruled by Pluto and Mars, and it requires, or the soul has brought forth a deep desire to understand its own psychology, where power and control are where sex and money have power and control over the scorpionic energy. So it's not easy to be a Scorpio. It really isn't. Because if you fall on the dark side of Scorpio, it's hard to pull yourself out. Oops. And the other thing that's interesting about Scorpio is those early degree, I think it's 2 degrees of Scorpio, is the Shapley attractor, where any planets around that area within 5 to 10 degrees, maybe even 12 degrees, you're being tasked, or your soul has chosen an opportunity to release false attachments to certain beliefs or certain things that have power and control over you. So if you're an early born Scorpio and your sun is there, it's about your ego. All right, here we go. If it's your rising, it's about yourself. Wow. And your perception and how you allow in your own happiness. All right, Scorpio, here we go. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. All right, 3 of Wands again, but this time it's upside down. Wow. You see me shuffle, right? Don't look at what I just did with my hand. 7 of Swords, upright. Strength is upright, and the star is inverted. All right, my Scorpios, this isn't easy, okay? Because you're clearly having a little bit of trouble seeing, seeing the viability of your future. If you are an early born Scorpio or you have significant planetary activity in early degrees of Scorpio, you're going to feel the square to Pluto. You're going to feel something is being revisited, and it's causing you, it's causing you tension. It's causing friction. It's rubbing up against you. And here we have this Seven of Swords. And really, this is a card of wanting to sort of just do it your own way. Just let me go do it my way. And this is what I want to offer you. Because the Three of Wands would be a lack of vision in the future, right? Having trouble seeing the future. And the Seven of Swords is doing it your own way. But this Strength card is offering opportunity to be gentle, to have strength, to look a little deeper. Because what I think is that your idea or whatever you're wanting to birth or experience in that Three of Wands energy is viable. But just like me, you're Mars ruled, and you may be impatient because there's a lack of faith here. There's a lack of honoring a system and a process of co-creation. So if indeed for some reason Scorpio is feeling a pull for something to manifest itself, your willingness to understand that sometimes, and I'm saying this to myself as well, the delay is because something even better is in the works than you can imagine, or something more rooted, or something more, you're like, oh my God, if I didn't know that was going to happen, that's so much better. Oh my God, that would be a nightmare, to be honest, MK. Especially, see, I don't know that I think a stellium in Scorpio is a nightmare if you're standing in awareness, if you're into the occult and you know your chart and you're standing in that connection to the other side. But if you don't, it's really hard. It's super hard because then it's just about power and control and dominance. And it doesn't change. It does not change. And moon especially too. Scorpio moon. And that's actually super intuitive energy too. So it's really, everything's polarizing. We can take any sign of the zodiac and we can villainize it and we can make it a hero. All right, on to our Sagittariuses. Here's a perfect example. We see Jupiter, abundance. We see expansion and growth, but Jupiter can make you fat. Obese. Jupiter can make you entitled. Jupiter can make you think your shit doesn't stink, okay? Given the right combination. Jupiter can be quite, I always think of it as that hip check. Get out of my way. Get out of my way. That's the dark side of Jupiter. All right. On to Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Here we go. Of course it does. The Nine of Wands is inverted. 10 of Pentacles is inverted. The Seven of Swords is inverted. And the Knight of Pentacles is inverted. So, all right. The first thing with the Nine of Wands is I feel like this is a card of defending yourself. You've been wounded. You've been through the wars. And while you know how to take care of things, you kind of tend to still kind of look over your shoulder. I think it's time not to look over your shoulder. Okay. Well, I'm going to interrupt myself real quick. No, I'm not. I'm going to wait. I'm going to address that 145 Club. Remind me when I get done. This 10 of Pentacles inverted and the Seven of Swords is inverted is feels like a little bit of a fight between some kind of tradition, authority, and doing your own thing. Oftentimes when we see the Seven of Swords in the traditional Rider-Waite deck, there is a character who is taking 5 swords and leaving 2 behind and looks like he's slinking out of the community. And there's really not, sometimes we can think he's stealing something, or he could be reclaiming something. Because for my Sagittariuses, I think this is about a reclaim. With the Knight of Pentacles being inverted, it's almost as if somewhere you've been put on some sort of notice or some sort of guard, or something old has been triggered, and now you can't quite see the path where you're walking, or you're not quite sure how you'll get to your destination. And I think that that could be potentially exasperated by some sort of push-pull between what has been tradition and doing your own thing. So, and again, we're looking at, all of the mutable signs are feeling the tension of the Saturn and Neptune conjunction still, because of the late degrees of Pisces still kind of being in there. And Jupiter, of course, transiting the late degrees of Gemini. Oh, there's some, when a lot of electronics go off like that, that's very much spirit. Like, they like electronics. They do well with that. Hi, Carly. Welcome to the room. Okay, 145 Club. The other side, too, needs to be questioned. Agreed. In this way, because there's a lot of, like, these shows on TV like Kindred Spirits and the Dead Files and all these, guys that go into these insane asylums and talk about all these aberrated kind of energies, right? Or these dark energies. I don't think that the other side is that different from this side, except in the respect that we have more awareness and more broadening of our being able to see how the universe actually works. I think we come here in the density of the earth so that when we connect to the truth of who we are, which is a co-creator, right? Ultimately, the other side to me is a big, huge co-creation. It's a continuation of life, but it's still a co-creation. So ultimately, that's what we want to see in that Scorpion energy, is that the awareness of a co-creation and more balance. And that's why it comes on the heels of Libra, because when you're in Libra, you're learning about peace and harmony, and then you're implementing that in the traumatic energies that are identified in the Scorpionic stuff. I don't know if that makes sense. Because when I watch some of these shows, these ghost shows, I don't believe that they're actually talking to ghosts or that people's houses are haunted. I believe that there's the potential that there's ectoplasm and there is a concentration of dark energy with the law of attraction that's creating things happening. And I'm not saying that I don't think there aren't spirits and this and that. I just don't think there's that many spirits on the other side that are unhappy. I feel like the awareness is the awareness of what we co-create gives us more inspiration to create balance than it does to hang us into our shit. I'm sorry. That's just how I view it. All right. On to our Capricorns, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I'm going to get through this broadcast. Today's a little bit longer because Teri's got a little bit of runny mouth. It's all energy. Exactly. Okay. Which drives some people crazy, 145 Club, when I do a reading and the energies look like they're going one way and then there's a change. And somebody goes, but you said this was going to happen. And I'm like, this is where it gets interesting, because their energy is more like hormones, right? So we can predict that we're going to have a hormonal cycle every month, at least the female can, obviously. And then, how that works out, it changes sometimes because, again, those reactions. All right. Capricorn, here we go. I didn't just do Capricorn, right? No, Sagittarius. Capricorn. All right, we've got the Two of Pentacles this time in straight up. The Three of Swords is straight up. The Knight of Pentacles and the Wheel of Fortune. Boy, we're getting a lot of similar cards. Yes, our choices move the energy, and our focus moves the energy. Our focus does as well. Because when we don't always choose our thoughts because they're kind of stuck in our brain. But when we start to give life to them and we add the emotions, it's like gasoline on fire. All right, Capricorn, flow, movement, and flexibility. We could say this is about money, but this Two of Pentacles is really more than that. because it's about taking the Ace of Pentacles, where we're bringing something into the material, and now we're allowing for the flow of it, knowing that things come and go. So if things are quiet right now, because there is this very tragic and hard energy of Three of Swords. And, indicates sometimes a betrayal. It definitely indicates feeling that your heart has been, you've been stabbed, you've been backstabbed in some way. But I want to offer this because this being easier with the flow. And if this has something to do with your work environment or how you make money, it could be that your responsibility, your duty, your sense of endurance has outweighed where you really want to go in life. And so if for some reason, because, this Pluto transit could bring up all sorts of weird things, people taking credit for your work is a betrayal. People, saying that you're one way when you're not is another type of betrayal, because the Wheel of Fortune is at the final stage. So we're looking here of flow, and something better is coming towards you, or something that you have been working towards. And here, this could be the shadows of the past, and Spirit wants you to keep your eye on the direction you're going. I think it's, it's interesting because, we always kind of, say Saturn is depressing and repressive and this and that, but we never actually think how the Capricorn feels when it experiences how hard it works and it does those Saturnian things, and inadvertently it doesn't get the reward, and I think that sometimes it's Capricorn, and a little bit with Cancer too. I know they oppose each other, but we have to claim our own rewards. Literally, we have to. If we don't start to give ourselves rewards, people won't. So, all right, Aquarius. Whew, here we go. Thanks, everybody. Okay, Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Give this a good shuffle. Oops. All right, here we go. Good morning, Taylor. Oh, the Three of Swords. Did you see how much I shuffled and how many cards fell out? And I put them back. Three of Swords upside down. The Death card upside down. The Devil card, oof. And the Nine of Pentacles upside down. All right, not so easy. I'm going to say it. And, it's not really all that surprising to me, because with Pluto's retrograding in your first house. And again, if you guys, anything, if your rising is like, say, 7 degrees of Aquarius, or even 15 degrees, or, 20 degrees, you're looking at that Pluto is transiting your 12th house. You have to be a very early degree Aquarius for this actually to be hitting the self. So something is being triggered that has to do with an old unconscious story of disempowerment, of feeling trapped in some way. Here's the betrayal, but it's upside down. So it's really more of a memory and more of you've been through the thick of it, okay? The immediate challenge of it, the immediate assault of whatever hurt your heart is not really in play. We've got the Death card upside down, but yet Spirit is saying you're still trapped. You're still trapped on some level because you can't see your way out, Aquarius. You can't see how you can create your own individual dynamic or your own individual sense of security within the material world. The Aquarian energy is obviously forward thinking, but it is the great awakener. Okay. It is Uranus is the alert, the lightning strike that goes, oh my God, I didn't know that. Oh, now that I know that, I feel free. And that could very well be what's going on here. And that, basically Spirit saying, we all experience heartache, but sometimes the biggest betrayal is when we betray ourselves because someone has betrayed us. And there's something about Aquarius right now that I feel like even if you're looking at an old story, there's this transformation is easier than you would think when you're willing to look at what's really got you chained up. I mean, it's interesting how these two characters are. She's got her hands out like, what the fuck? And he's like, I'm scratching my head. I don't know what to do, because you can't do anything physically. This is about with connecting with Spirit. This is about an emotional thing. And if for some reason this has to do with your work environment, Aquarius, or somehow that you make money, you will see that when you start to turn it around, because this is still a little bit clogged. Oh yeah. The prison of the 12th house, exactly. The prison of the self-undoing. That's the other thing, because the thing about Aquarius is that it can literally shoot itself in the foot because it gets so upset or so anxious that it wants to just move away from the situation versus driving away from the situation. So it can make jerky motions. So might be a little bit challenging. Plus the idea of, again, the fixed sign, they're the ones that are all sandwiched within each quadrant, second, I don't want to go through, try to figure out what the numbers are, but if you think about it, so we've got let's take the first quadrant and we look at that fixed energy of Taurus sandwiched between the self and the childhood, right? The Gemini energy of how we're raised and how people perceive us outside. And we look at that fixed energy. And with Taurus, we're looking at our skills and so when other people, like you sing and other people laugh at you, that could be a shutdown. I think what they're saying right now is, Aquarius, don't let the old story shut you down. Still be expansive. Still allow for the future to move you, to be your focus. All right, Pisces. I need a sip. I'll tell you, I'm really glad I'm not drinking alcohol during this period of being extremely pissed off, because I would be worse. I'd be pissed off and depressed. It's amazing. All right, here we go. Pisces, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. The Seven of Wands. We're seeing so many of the similar cards. Queen of Swords, Eight of Pentacles upside down, and the Sun. All right, Pisces, it's time to create a bridge. And that bridge is, you have everything you need. You have the desire. You have the equipment. That's the backpack. The desire is the jacket, all in the torso. And even you have a bit of the balance. But will you create the bridge? Because right now, it feels a little foggy. Of course, Saturn, Neptune coming into hovering those last degrees, depending upon what's there. Because I really think that while this represents the Libra energy, I think it's really about going to the beat of your own drum. And if you're worried about money right now, because that's the Eight of Pentacles, it would also indicate that there's a certain amount of work that has to be done, or gets to be put into the mix. Because that's a little bit of the challenge with the Pisces energies. It's easily defeated. And it easily can kind of say, why bother? It's not going to work out, because here's the sun inverted, which means standing in leadership for what you want, standing in some kind of leadership for bridging where you are and where you want to go. And you have everything that you need in order to do that. But part of it is sort of anchoring into the deeper part of what is in your heart, rather than going outside of yourself, which you can easily do through your empathy and compassion. And that's where the defeatism comes in, because you could look at somebody and be like, you're a really great artist. And even if you don't like their particular art or what they're producing, you'd be like, I can appreciate that. But the other person may be very different and may inadvertently shut you down. So this is about you kind of taking a little bit more of a oomph for yourself and standing. And that's that North Node. That's also pardon me while I point, that's that North Node in your first house, giving you this feeling of really wanting to stretch to be who you are and what you are capable of. And you're capable of a lot. It's not easy to be a Pisces. It really isn't. Again, this is the one sign that has nothing to protect it. It's just these little fishies. You get a spear thing, at least the crab has a shell. The spear can't easily penetrate. The stinger on the scorpion. So it's not easy. All right, on to our final sign, Aries. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And we will be back next. Is it Memorial Day next weekend already? I'm going to be here for Memorial Day. Okay. I've been taking way too much time off. So I will be here next Sunday. Because once the construction starts, I'm going to have to go on another little stretch. But pretty soon, everything's going to be back on track. And I'll be back on track. And I'll be 20 times better than I am now. And 20 times richer in my soul, because I will have listened to my soul, and my ego would have gotten a little bit of a check. Thank you, Lucy. All right, here we go. Aries, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. The 2 of Wands is inverted. The 9 of Pentacles is inverted. The 2 of Cups is straight up. And the Queen of Cups is inverted. Pardon me. The 2 of Wands is actually a very Aryan energy. And here it is upside down. Now, if we look at this card straight up, there is a sunset of some kind. And yet there's still, she's got a bicycle here. She's got her 2 wands. She's got a map. So this is indicating looking to the future. One part of the fire, the passion, the adventure, the wand energy is sort of coming to, it's passing the baton on to something else. That's the way I want to put it. When we see the traditional Rider-Waite deck, you see that the guy is like standing out, looking over this ocean. He's holding the world in his hands, and he's holding one staff or wand, and the other one is bolted to a cement platform of some kind. So this is a new beginning of some kind, a building upon what has been. And here is this 9 of Pentacles upside down. I really think that this is where we're feeling the Chiron energy for Aries. We're feeling the Saturn energy, the Neptunian energy. And now in the Angel's advice, it's about trying to come together. The material right now might have to sort of take a little bit of a back seat, because the connection to spirit is what is most powerful for moving the story forward. And I say that because the Queen of Cups is upside down, which is saying to me that Aries gets to realign to their heart. Because again, here we have the sign that represents anger, frustration, resentment, and blowing your top. And this is where you're sort of being tasked, because, while I look at the bad guys around me, I also can see on an intuitive, well, I don't like it. My ego doesn't like it. My ego does not want to be compassionate to the bad guy right now. Okay. My ego doesn't want to look at the story of their poor little lonely life that makes them be an asshole to me. Right. That's my ego. But on a soul level, I know that must be true. And on a soul level, I know that I'm richer than my opponent, than my enemy, than my adversary. Because somewhere spirit is tasking you to be or your soul, I should say, is tasking you to be the evolved version of Chiron, going from the wound to the reward. And the reward cannot be as rich without, and I'll say it, the wound. So it's going to be a little topsy-turvy maybe for the next little bit, like the rest of the year overall, really, because there's a lot going on. So if you're feeling low or you're feeling a little out of whack, you can always reach out for a reading from me, because I'm here for you. But also, just take out your charts, look at them a little bit, and look at the transits and sort of look at it like a weather storm, and do your best to take care of yourself during it. Don't push when Saturn's up against you because, pace yourself. It's not about completely stopping. It's about pacing. It's about aligning to the energy versus just getting it out. I hope that makes sense. All right, everybody. That's it for this week. I managed to keep it under an hour and a half. I can't believe it. I talked so much. I love all of you very much. And I want to remind you, I pray for your peace of mind. And peace of mind doesn't mean the outside world is peaceful. It just means we have greater understanding about the disruption. I want to say this. I think that there are some great aspects that happen, but sometimes those harder aspects tend to eclipse those greater aspects. I have Pluto sextiling my Jupiter and my South Node right now. So as I surrender to the transformation, there's benefit to be had. There's expansion to be had. And hopefully I don't have to do this stretch again. Because I'm done with the anger ball stretches. I'd like to get into the more, enjoyable stretches, if there are such things. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Love all of you very much. And we will see you next Sunday, 11 a.m. Peace out.